Welcome back. Now, Bujumbura continues to pay the price for President Pierre Nkurunziza's decision to run for a third term. The latest incident occurred near a petrol station where at least 6 people were injured when attackers hurled a grenade there. 2 additional explosions were reported in the northern district of Ngagara, where gunfire took place, and there's speculation that it could be coordinated. However, in a separate development, thousands of Burundian refugees living in Rwanda are fearful about what the future holds for them now that Rwanda has unexpectedly announced plans to relocate them to other countries. Rwanda's plan to relocate the refugees comes amid accusations that Kigali is meddling in the affairs of its troubled neighbor. Recently accused Rwanda of backing rebels intent on overthrowing the government in Bujumbura. However, Kigali has fiercely denied those accusations. Still talking security, it's certainly time for a more aggressive approach in addressing the Boko Haram situation in Nigeria, as the president of Somalia has disclosed that members of the sect are heading to Nigeria. Here's an excerpt of the statement made by President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud. He says there are proofs and evidence that for some time Boko Haram has been trained in Somalia and they went back to Nigeria. The terrorists are so linked together, they're associated and so organized that we, the world, need to be so organized, end of quote. The president revealed this crucial information at an international security conference in Germany, and he's worried that global terrorism is gaining ground fast in most parts of Africa due to the affiliation with Middle East groups. If this is true, then Boko Haram is not only backed by the Islamic State, but also Al-Shabaab. And joining us from
thank you very much.
Now, as a counterterrorism and organized crime expert, what does this piece of information say to you?
I think the most important thing that this information by President Hassan Sheikh brings on board is the call for not just a one-nation strategy against defeating Boko Haram, but it's calling for a regional strategy. I mean, it is not important for us to know that Boko Haram has been trained in Somalia, because, you know, this is some sort of an old news just from a new author. Boko Haram has received training not just in Somalia, they've received training in Mali, they've received training in Libya. So the most important thing that we should be taking into consideration is the need for a regional strategy to defeat Boko Haram. So that is what, you know, President Hassan Sheikh is trying to say, that this is a problem that is engulfing all the regional states and should be taken very, very seriously, not just by one nation.
Now, I know you're talking about the regional efforts here, but what are your thoughts about the approach currently being taken by the Nigerian authorities in addressing the Boko Haram threat?
I mean, the approach which has been taken, which is mostly the military approach, you know, is not the best, you know, because what you find is that you cannot actually defeat terrorism just by using a military strategy alone. There's an important aspect of looking at the community-based initiatives that prevent programs within the community will help much in building trust between the community and the military sector. But what has happened is there has been an overwhelming use of a military strategy to defeat Boko Haram, and also that strategy has not been very, very much in practice, involved other states including Cameroon, Niger, Chad, and even Somalia. So the talk of an 8,700 militants, you know, formed by the regional task force is very, very good on paper, but actually in practice, it is still the same, because it's still the same military strategy which does not involve the communities. So it is the same approach of, you know, using military, which is not going to work. Whether you use that in Cameroon or in Nigeria or in Niger or in Chad, this is not going to work. So the most important aspect of looking at counterterrorism is, first of all, to deal with the underlying causes of the organization, address some of these issues, and then more importantly, look at a strategy whereby you can call for a dialogue. I know a lot of people don't want to listen about dialogue, but the only way you can stop the killing of all these innocent civilians, you know, the only way you can help is to be able to stop the killing and then talk to the people.
Well, you speak of dialogue, but can you explain better what kind of dialogue you're talking about? in this case?
I mean, when I speak of dialogue, I mean, you have to dialogue with the organizations that are involved. I know Boko Haram is a multi-headed organization whereby you have different factions.
But what about the advice that says it's not a wise decision to negotiate with terrorists?
Yes, you always hear that from nations, that it's not a wise idea to negotiate with terrorists. Even the United Kingdom negotiated with the IRA. I know Boko Haram is completely a different ideologically driven organization, but if you cannot win them, by killing them, then you have to come on the table, because at one point, we have to talk to this organization. At one point, we have to mediate. At one point, we have to ensure that people stop, killing others. So military is not working. So the only way that we can go forward with this is to devise a strategy and a framework, where we can have a dialogue.
Now, besides dialogue, David Otto, we see a lot of collaborative efforts being done by these, terror groups, and we've also seen steps taken by the current president of Nigeria, for instance, going to various nations and asking them to pitch in. But like you said, we see a lot on paper, and we're not seeing a lot in practice. So, what kind of support should these countries, which are saying they support Nigeria, what kind of support should they actually be giving them, as opposed to, releasing statements every time we hear of another incident saying they condemn those attacks?
I mean, the most important thing which we have to understand is all these countries, most of these countries that the president has been to, one way or the other, are vulnerable to attacks by Boko Haram. So the kind of support that you're looking into is a community-based initiative whereby, the government has to establish trust between all the communities and build what you call local intelligence framework. If you build local intelligence framework, establish trust between the military and the security services and the communities that are affected, it will go a long way, because no terrorist organization can live for a day without actually having the trust and support from the community. But what we find is, we do not have the community trust in the police and the military, because all we hear is Boko Haram members getting killed. We never hear of the innocent people who get killed by the military. So these communities, they face the problem. They know that they are being affected, but the system is not taking care of the interests of the community. So the way that regional states can help is to devise a regional collaborative effort whereby you can bring radicalization awareness programs, you can bring disengagement and de-radicalization programs on a regional level. Then you move to the international level. But if you only use military, which is fundamental.
Well, David, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa. We appreciate your time and your input. Stay with us on Network Africa. In just a moment, South Sudan rebuilds not only its government, but its roads with the help of China.